Carl Jung said, until you bring your unconscious into consciousness, it will control your life and you will call it fate. Until you bring your unconscious into consciousness, it will control your life and you will call it fate. I want you to stop and anchor into that statement for a moment. That is your life. You're running around projecting, blaming, judging, criticizing yourself and others, and it's all these unconscious patterns that are running your life, and you're calling it fate. And so I'm going to dive into today how to recognize your unconscious in the 3D world and then how to shift it. And this will be the most important work you'll ever do. It is not for the faint of heart. It will push you, it will try you, it will have you frustrated, it will have you sometimes banging your head against the wall. Aslan doesn't have to do it because he's a sweet cat. He just wants to be in my lap. He's an old man, he's 18. But it will truly set you free. Welcome to the Yaroke way of healing, expanding, spiritually transforming, and mastering energetics. I am Yaroke, spiritual mentor, leadership mentor, clinically trained therapist, nervous system genius, and all around energetic sorceress, which just means I'm a master of energetics, and energetics creates your life, especially your subtle energy, especially your unconscious energy. Ooh, so let's dive into this. Okay. So you're moving through the world, right? And you're like, wanting to expand, to embody a new way of being, to activate your highest, most elevated self, which highest self is actually not who you're meant to be. You're meant to be your unique energetic vibration on this planet at this time. That is a whole other video, though. And so here you are moving through the world and you come into obstacles. Maybe you keep having the same relational pattern that shows up with a lover, with friends, with clients. Maybe you are constantly feeling unseen. Maybe you're constantly feeling criticized or judged, or you feel like you're misunderstood, you're not heard. And then you go into a spiral of victimhood. You either blame and berate yourself or you blame other people. Now, this could happen on a very subtle level. You could be a high level leader, bringing in all kinds of money and have a beautiful life externally. And yet, there are these sneaky, subtle ways. Maybe it's online, like, oh, men always do this, or women always do this, or the patriarchy does this, or the systems do this. It's all a mirror for you. And that is really hard for us to sit with. And the truth is, if every single one of us on this planet would sit with what we are constellating out into the world, we would live in a very different world. If we all sat with what are my thoughts threading, and like makes me emotional, what are my thoughts threading through the world? What are my emotions? Because emotions are the language of the universe, right? So we have never been taught how to work with our emotions. And because we've never been taught how to work with our emotions, we repress them, and then they get constellated out into thoughts that are meant to be protective against the emotions that feel too big to feel. Say that again. We repress the emotions, and then we have thoughts like overthinking, judging, overanalyzing, criticism, blame, judgment, all of these things. I think I said judging twice. All of these ways of thinking that are actually just protective against the emotions that we don't know how to be with. Because those emotions, when we've not been taught how to be with them, they feel too big to feel. So think about a 2-year-old who's screaming and crying and nobody's holding that 2-year-old. Well, that may have happened at one point in your life. So then you learned, your nervous system learned, it's not safe for me to feel these big feelings. I need to do something to numb this out, right? So maybe you sucked your thumb, maybe you had a blankie, maybe you started to like look for like shiny objects to distract you from the very intense pain that felt like you were going to die in your body. So then you started to develop thought patterns to disassociate from those emotions. This then became trauma coded into your nervous system, and then became later something that is diagnosable, quote unquote. And then the system profits off you. I'm not saying you don't have ADHD. I'm not saying you don't have BPD symptoms or narcissistic defenses or all these things. But guess what? They are all a defense against trauma coded into your nervous system because no one was there to empathically witness you in those moments. Now, this shows up on a wide range, right? It could be exacerbated, like a huge defense, rigid defense, or it could be subtle. like a subtle defense against shame. So you're super high functioning and no one really knows that there's an issue, but you don't feel good inside. And you keep being met with these same instances in your life. Like maybe people constantly bump into you on the subway, and it's like, okay, well, what are your beliefs about yourself? What are the ways that you've also used, not just your beliefs about yourself, but it's also the ways that you've protected yourself? So maybe feeling seen has actually not felt safe, or maybe you've needed attention through being sick, and so you create all of these scenarios to get what you need for little tiny you who's running the show, and they're screaming and crying and panicking and freaking out. Are you following me? If you need to pause and go back and listen, listen. This stuff is like, it's so easy to skip these very seemingly simple things. It's like, oh, I want to go to the high level manifestation and the quantum leaps and all of these things. This is how you quantum leap, by looking at what's happening in my 3D reality. So I'm going to ask you, what is a pattern that's frustrating you in your 3D reality right now? What is something that keeps happening? So the other day, someone sent me this woman, this little, like, it's like a very fire faucety, but in kind of like it's not my favorite kind of way. So here we are. This woman sent me someone sent me this woman the other day to like read her copy and how she communicates, like shows not tells, and it was really done well, but I could sense this like kind of energy about it. Like I couldn't quite pin my finger on it. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on with me with this woman. I am an energetic sorceress. I have Mercury in Pisces in the 8th house, which literally means I put words to your unconscious. Like I can feel and sense your unconscious, and then I put words to it. So I'm sensing something. So then I watch her stories on Instagram, and she's in her stories and she's got a selfie and she's like in basically a bikini and she looks amazing. And she's like, people keep commenting on how I've gained weight, and I want to just tell you I did this intentionally. And then, a lot of her page is about reclaiming her body and who she is as a woman. And I'm like, oh, but if people are commenting on this, then you feel this inside, right? Because people, and I heard this from a neuroscientist once, and it was like literally one of my favorite quotes. People pick up in their empathic receptors of their brain how you feel about yourself, and then they treat you that way. People pick up in their empathic receptors of their brain how you feel about yourself, and then they treat you that way. Just sit with that. And so when this is showing up in your 3D reality, it's really easy to blame other people. Oh, they shouldn't be commenting on my body. They shouldn't be saying this. They shouldn't be saying that. Da, 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 da. Sure. But also, what's unconsciously happening for you? I am single with no children, and no one ever asks me why. And so when women are always like, oh, they always want to know this, that, or the other, I'm like, there's something happening within you. There's a belief you carry. There's a trauma that's hidden in your nervous system somewhere. There's something happening within you that this keeps showing up in your reality. If you keep having clients who don't pay or jobs that aren't going through, what are your actual unconscious beliefs? Then you have to look at, how am I getting my needs met by being stuck, suffering, and in victimhood? How am I getting my needs met by being stuck, suffering, and in victimhood? Now, people want to fight that one hard. They're like, why would I want that? Why would I be, keeping myself stuck? Because that's a way that little you gets her needs met, or his needs met, or their needs met. That is a thing. That is a very real thing, actually. If you have always felt like you got your needs met for not being good enough, for always being sick, for always being needy, for always having an issue, for obsessing, like for me, I used to really get attention through obsessing and ruminating. And I was like a succubus of energy and attention because I needed people to hear me. So as long as I had a problem, there were always people who were going to listen to that. And I would kind of cycle through friends. It's like actually really sad to think about, because I was just always obsessing. My brain is very smart, but because I hadn't reconciled some of the trauma inside of me, I would fixate and I would obsess on certain things, usually having to do with my romantic relationships. And as I healed that and as I shifted that, I had to learn to relate in a new way, which meant I had to learn to take up space in a new way. Like, I want you to hear that. I had to learn to take up space in a new way. And then I had to feel like I had to feel safe in my body to not need that kind of attention anymore. I had to feel safe in my body to not need that kind of attention anymore. So I want you to really sit with, how do I get attention? How do I get my needs met? How is sickness, victimhood, or scarcity, or being in pain, getting my needs met of my inner child? Have I attuned to my inner child? What are the unconscious beliefs that are showing up in my 3D reality? How does my nervous system relate to that through safety, right? Like, you get something out of being able to be like, oh, I can't believe people are asking me this question, or oh, I can't believe this is happening, or oh, this, that, or the other. I mean, one of my biggest ones has been judgment, and I would like judge everybody for showing up because I wasn't showing up. And then it was like I can see all of the things. Like I literally can see all of the patterns, but I was like scared to express it. I recently had something happen where it was so painful and it was relational, and I'm not going to share the details because it's just too soon. But as I unlocked what was happening behind that, I was like, "Oh, I'm actually scared to talk about this very prevalent belief I carry." And as I was working through this with my voice teacher, because she listens, she works with me through like the nuance of sound and what's happening, right? Through the way that my voice is resonating. And she got to the underneath of what was happening, and she was like, "Oh, Yarrow, you're a sweetheart." And I was like, "What?" It's like, maybe Terry. She's like, "You just want people, you care so badly that people about people suffering, like you want them to not suffer so badly. Like this is such a pure intention in your heart." And I was like, "It is. Like, I just want so badly for everyone to stop suffering." And I can see the ways that we attach, right? Like, we grip onto perceptions, to beliefs, to narratives, to stories, to ways of being. And I can feel and sense the attachment energy and the subtle nuance that's coming from the unconscious, that's coming from the nervous system. And then when I point it out, it's very triggering for people because I'm basically touching on the thing that you have this like possum guarding your trash pile that's like, "Get the fuck away from my trash pile." And I'm like, "But that's the thing. We got to look at that thing. We got to look at how attaching to this story, to this belief, to this narrative is keeping you stuck. And you're perceiving it as safety. And the only way we can get in there and do that is by being able to soften, feeling safe enough to soften our defenses, to look at those stories and how we think they're quote unquote serving us or keeping us safe, so that we can release the story and start to embody a new way of being. And one of the most effective ways to do this is to look at what's happening in your 3D reality. And so I'll use the example, the one from a few weeks ago that was super triggering for me, really sensitive. I was really hurt, but I was able to go, "Oh, there's gold to mine in here. Like I am actually holding back my voice because I'm scared to speak on these topics because I'm scared I'm going to get canceled. And I have to start speaking on them. I have to say how I feel. I have to express what's alive in me because then I'm going to feel free." And so that's the other thing, is like this happened to set me free. It was painful. It was heartbreaking. I cried for days, but it was like, "Oh, I needed this to happen so that I could shake this out of me, shake this out of my unconscious." So I was holding back because I was like, "I'm going to get killed if I start talking about this," right? It's like that old story from being killed as a healer, as a witch, as a medicine woman, as an oracle, right? Like I once uncovered this memory. I was standing in my kitchen and I was voice noting with my business mentor, and we were talking about past lives. And all of a sudden, this past life flashed through me of like being in a temple, like a stone temple, and this man coming and slitting my throat, and I bled out with my having my throat slit because the priestesses had betrayed me. My fellow priestesses had betrayed me. And so we were looking at this in terms of like my sisterhood wounds. And I have a huge betrayal wound with sisterhood that I'm healing so deeply right now. Like the ways that I'm feeling seen and held in sisterhood right now is beyond anything I've ever experienced, because we unlocked this memory, because I was able to then recognize when it comes up and like be with the trigger. So I share these stories to help you see I'm not exempt from this. We all have these things that happen. And it's so easy to just be like, "Oh, women are mean to me," and like hold a little bit of a, it's like this subtle protector. Like, even if we have these relationships, right? So I'm going to use that as an example. Even if I have relationships with women, there's this subtle protector, there's this subtle block because I haven't reconciled within me that wound. And so then it's constellating out and creating unconscious protection. And so by me being able to go, "Okay, I notice this is happening with me and other women. Let's like get in there and figure out what's going on. And then I get to the unconscious. I bring the past life wound forward. And it doesn't have to be a past life wound, it might be a current life wound. And then I can process the emotions with that. And then I start to titrate it for my nervous system. So I repattern my nervous system to lean into these relationships. And that's me being the leading energy. Because truly, whatever's happening for you emotionally is happening for you energetically. And then you have the thoughts that are protecting you from that. And then that's creating your auric field around you. And people are feeling that before you even speak. And so they're feeling your unconscious. They might not be able to put words to it. They might not know exactly what it is, but they're feeling your unconscious before you speak. And the way to shift that is to really get in there, get curious. Like things show up in your life, like you feel unseen. What's happening? Where am I not seeing myself? Where do I not believe I'll be seen? Where do I believe that people are going to choose, the easy way, or they're going to choose their addictive behaviors rather than choosing to be held to their divinity? Because that's one of mine. And then we have to shift that belief and we have to start to see, okay, here is evidence that people want to be held to their divinity. Okay, I stay connected to that. I stay connected to that. I stay connected to that. And that further starts to shift in my unconscious. So then that's not coming up. And then when something comes up, I just get to get curious about it. So it's getting curious, noticing what's happening in the 3D. Write this down. Notice what's happening in the 3D. Get curious about it. What's being constellated within you? Where is there a story that you hold on to because it gets you attention? It gets you your needs met in some capacity. Where is there tending to do of your inner child? Do you have a deep wound around this? Then how do we heal that wound, process that trauma out of your nervous system so that you can show up and relate to the world differently? You have to be willing to open up to the world again, to be vulnerable in the world without holding on to the stories. And then you start to repattern your nervous system to a new way of being, and you become the leading vibration, which is going to ask you to connect to your magnetic vibration. If you follow this, your life will change. If you want guidance in this, my program, The Composer, is starting in the middle of April. I'm just starting to tease it out and announce it. So if this is interesting to you, it's an 8-week sacred chrysalis that's designed to rewire your DNA at a cellular level, shift your energetic vibration so that you have full freedom in your life. It's so powerful and potent. It's like being held in a pressurized chrysalis that actually transforms you into a diamond. So if this feels interesting to you, reach out, let me know, and you will be the first to know when the page, the beautiful sales page, drops into the world. Okay, I love you all so much. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon.